Welcome to the broadcast, my fruits. Happy Sunday to all of you. I hope you don't mind me coming to you a little bit more casual than usual in knitwear, but I'm excited because I found this jumper recently. You would be astonished at the original price of it. I'll discuss that a bit later in the broadcast, but I'm very happy with it because every year I treat myself to a Christmas jumper. Just the one to wear on Christmas Day, and that's usually when it gets its first outing, but I'm going to model it for you today because I just have fallen in love with it. The richness probably doesn't translate over the lens, but it is really beautiful. This blue, it's a blue, it might be coming over as green, but it's a lovely blue in a rich mohair. Stunning. Jumpers make me very excited. You know, it's the small pleasures in life, and when you find a beautiful jumper that fits like a glove, or a new friend like Lumiere here. Let's welcome Lumiere to the show, shall we? You know, I walked past it in a shop, and it's never something that I don't think I'd ever buy for myself, and I thought, my fruits. It's going to tickle my fruits if that's there in the back. I got it home and put it on, and it is I smile every time I pass it. And you know, it's very good in the middle of the night if you need to pay a penny. You can kind of clutch the candelabrum and take it with you instead of a torch. It's a very elegant nighttime torch, and well, he keeps me company, don't you, Loomsy? Yes, you do. So let's welcome him to the fruit basket. Won't you mind, basketeers? Let's welcome him. So I've got my Christmas jumper sorted. Last year I think it was a red number. Or was that the year before? Anyway, Catherine has brought out the Christmas reds, hasn't she? We've got some lovely topics to discuss today. Lovely, gentle royal topics. And of course, one of the loveliest things about royalty is our Princess Catherine. And she was out in force in Wigan in her capacity as patron after taking over from you-know-who, the brother-in-law, at the Rugby League World Cup quarter-final. And it's reminiscent, isn't it, of Mary Poppins, because she's seen here with the umbrella. And they're always so photogenic, aren't they, those pictures? I'm loving the weather at the moment because it's still warm here. For me, it's warm. I mean, my great aunt is freezing. She's always complaining about how cold everything is, but she starts complaining about that in September. She says it's her bones, they're getting old. But for most of us, it's still very mild here, but splashy, beautifully splashy it's been this morning, and drizzly. And umbrellas with the rain splashing against them make for the most beautiful, picturesque scenes, don't they? As displayed very well by Meghan and Harry in that gorgeous photo that was captured of them, which I'm sure they were very pleased with. I mean, I know there were some really rather ridiculous rumours about them attaching bulbs to the inside of umbrellas. I mean, I ask you, people really believe this stuff. It's not true. And Catherine certainly doesn't attach bulbs to the inside of her umbrellas. I mean, it is quite an ingenious idea if you think of it. But she didn't do that. But she floated in just like Mary Poppins from the chimney tops of London into the proceedings in this McQueen coat that we've all seen before and we all love, a burgundy turtleneck, pearl earrings by Anushka Dukas, a woolen red poppy, and you can see little hints of the pleated skirt underneath, and I really like that look. It brings to mind petticoats, doesn't it? Almost like a swish of the petticoats here and there, a little saucy flash. Very charming. And talk about princess on stilts. I mean, she was at an unfair advantage because I don't think anybody else in this particular shot was in heels, but she looked so tall, didn't she, against the rest of the crowd here, who were all very beguiled by the princess, it has to be said. And it was a successful match. I'm not remotely competitive when it comes to sporting matters. It's not my jurisdiction, dears. But commiserations to our fruity friends in Papua New Guinea and Canada, because for once we seem to have won something, and we triumphed on this occasion, apparently. And we saw her speaking with and thanking various volunteers. And one of them was this profoundly deaf woman who had such a beautiful interchange with Catherine. Did you see it?
Yeah. Have you made these? Wow. Gosh, look at that. They're so beautifully made.
Mum, I am profoundly deaf.
but I've been able to live through you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I love them. Thank you very much. And I'm sure lots of...
So a lovely day out for the princess there. And speaking of Middleton stock, Carol has launched her party pieces range across supermarkets in New Jersey. She's launched her party pieces at ShopRite. Listen, it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. Okay? And she will do it with class wherever she shows her wares, I'm sure. And, you know, she has such an entrepreneurial spirit. She formed this company in 1987. And this was when she was a young mum. I think she had 2 and 1 on the way, don't quote me, at the time. And she grew this company, I think it was from the shed, wasn't it? The 3 children all worked there, and she grew it into a multi-million-pound company. So props to her and to anybody with that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. And it's true when it doesn't die, when the family becomes mega successful in the eyes of the world, and she becomes Carol Middleton, the humble Carol, becomes grandmother to a future king. You know that someone has that true ambition to provide a sense of industry in their own life and for the world, when they still keep on keeping on, when they could really afford to just sit back, have their darling son-in-law over for Sunday brunch here and there, and, bask in the glories, my dear, of being Catherine's mother, our future queen. But no, that's not the Middleton way, and that's where Catherine acquired her work ethic, which is rather different to that of the in-laws. I really shouldn't keep going, should I? But it is impossible. It's impossible not to make the comparison. They work very hard too, but again, it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. This range of disposable but very pretty party pieces is going to be on display at 321 outlets across 6 states. And there's a big marketing push for it in a campaign. There's going to be life-size cutouts of Carol Middleton all over these stores. I haven't seen these yet, but I can't wait to see them. I should try and get hold of one, shouldn't I? It'd be rather fun to have her looming there in the background, or something to keep old Loomsy company. Sure, there's cardboard cutout, and apparently she's dressed in a country casuals in a sort of Martha Stewart affair, so very lucrative market. Let's see how it goes. Should go down well. So let me know if you've purchased anything from the range. If you're organising a party, a kids' party, or those who are young at heart. Let me know how it goes. Do you want the best advice, by the way, for those of you that seriously host parties? The number 1 piece of advice that anyone will tell you, from Liz Brewer to me, because I know about parties. The best piece of advice is always to cram people into a small space. They are the ones that are going to be jumpy, energetic, jostly, not so much that it is entirely uncomfortable, but maybe with a slight element of discomfort. Rather like the French house pub in Soho, that sort of affair, It gives one a sense of atmosphere. The worst thing in the world, I've got a beloved in my life who will throw the occasional birthday party or anniversary. Every time they throw it, or throw one, they hire a venue which is about 5 times larger than it should be. And you end up with a collection of people sitting poles apart from each other, looking around, not really making conversation with strangers, and a complete lack of atmosphere. It drives me nuts. I really want to mention it, but I don't want to offend. That is the best piece of party advice. Group them all together and, pen them in. It gives a busyness to the occasion. You want that sort of, that friction and that feeling of bonhomie and bumping into, talking to strangers, a bit cosy. Obviously you want some comfort available and little routes of escape, but that's my advice. And I don't often give advice, but I found that to be really true. Never overcompensate. Never go for a space that is too large and expect everybody on the invite list to come. Anyway, I digress, because our lovely king planted 2 things over the last few days. He planted a tree and he planted a kiss on Stella McCartney. Lucky old Stella, eh? Well, actually two, one either side. That's another faux pas. Please, my dear, if you're not familiar with giving the old mwah, mwah, the old French kiss or the Spanish kiss or the... Well, I'm not talking about Frenchies. You know, a European-style air kiss, my dear. Please, if you're unacquainted with it, so many people go in, purse the lips and smacker each cheek, leaving lipstick or saliva or any kind of undesirable territorial discharge. And that's not warranted. So do as you see Charles do, Stella almost doing, just aim for the air, and it's a cheek-to-cheek type of thing with a... You know, people aren't sure of this sort of thing, and they get it all wrong. And actually Stella McCartney, although it was very sweet and charming what we saw in her interchange with the King, and it made headlines.
I don't know what to do anymore. Well,
I'm supposed to do this now. I've practiced all the way now.
Well, it did have a slight air of awkwardness because she questioned what she was about to do. You see, she's very familiar with Charles, but only in his role as the Prince of Wales, and she was greeting him for the first time as the King. And firstly, it's lovely to see people being deferential and continuing that tradition. And more people are doing it than I thought they would, especially public figures. We saw it with Stella McCartney this week. We saw it with the likes of Edward Enninful last week, who gave a really respectful bow, you know, a great, beautifully executed bow. You know, nothing over the top or anything, but a nice, fairly deep bow. I've seen a few. Claire Balding this week curtsied to the Princess Catherine, which is very nice. These things really matter. And don't you notice that they just put these people up in your estimation? It doesn't detract from them, does it? In my estimation anyway, they go through the roof. And I think they understand about respect, tradition, courtesy, these sort of rights, you see. But yes, Stella did sort of stumble. Oh, she said, I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure how to approach you. But she did. And what she should have done from the off is just with confidence, especially at that first meeting between the two. I mean, if it was me, I would do it every time I crossed his path. I would initiate conversation with a curtsy and Your Majesty. She might feel the urge to only do that for the first meeting. But she should have just got on confidently and said, Your Majesty, curtsied, and then go ahead. But of course, she sort of shuffled around a bit. Excuse me. She shuffled around a bit, and then he made her feel at home with the reassuring air kiss to say, we're still friends. You know, we can still embrace. A reassuring pat on the arm. Lovely from him. And I'm so enjoying, as much as I enjoyed the rather brusque style of the late Queen. I really do. And she held true to that throughout her whole life. You know, more formal, less cosy. I'm really enjoying just a new style. It is nice to have that freshness. He has an air of the lovey about him. And loveys get a bit of a bad rap. I don't think loveys are allowed to be loveys in the way that they once did these days, because the world is too politically correct. Loveys aren't what they once were. But he has an air of the lovey about him, as does Camilla. And it's really nice. It's cosy. Love the new style. Am I getting carried away? Well, I love our King. What can I tell you? Flawed as he is, as all of us are. And I don't think he is particularly flawed, but you know. He's disparaged for that. Well, I just love him to bits. And I love his style. I love the warmth. And it's paying off. Him just being him. Petulant tantrums and all. But Stella really is a Stella girl, isn't she? She really is. And she always puts one in mind of the Primrose Hill set. That really rather decadent era before everything became rather anodyne. You know, the Kates, the Siennas, the Judes, a collection of creatives that would hang around Primrose Hill before it became completely overtaken by foreign investors that leave these large townhouses largely empty and suck the soul and life and character out of the place, even though they might plough some money into it. Primrose Hill said, there was a time when everybody that you met had either shagged Kate Moss or Jude Law, and oftentimes both of them together at the same time. But those days have passed. And that reminds me, I meant to bring it up the other day when I saw, whenever Keir Starmer is in Question Time, and I like Keir Starmer, by the way, as a person. I think he's okay. He used to be very, very handsome. He always pronounces the word secretary. He's one of those people that unfortunately talks as if he's got blocked nasal cavities the entire time. What? Prime Minister, I want a question.
Was his Home Secretary right to resign last week? According to the bookies, the Home Secretary has a better chance of becoming the next Tory leader than she has of processing an asylum claim in a year.
Because I'm doing this, and I want to know what the government is going to do about that. I spoke to the Foreign Secretary, it's secretary, my dear. And this isn't a question of pronunciation, regional accents, this, that and the fourth. Nothing wrong with regional accents. This is just a mispronunciation entirely. But it's a common one. Secretary. Secretary or secretary if you have to be a bit more vulgar about it. But secretary, you just trip over the "-ary" at the end. Not secretary. I don't know how people come up with this. Because we're not talking about someone without an education. This is the thing. You can forgive some of the bands out there. But he had an education. And he hears the word day in, day out. Has he not twigged? If you're listening to this and you pronounce it secretary, please, I pray, I beseech you, do think it over. And Rishi Sunak was there, of course, as part of the threesome. He looks quite handsome close up, he's got nice teeth. But he does rather put me in mind of a puppet. He's like a puppet on stilts, one of those ones that just kind of pops up like a little puppet. Hopefully not literally, governmentally speaking. But as well as planting a kiss, the king also planted a tree, a lime tree, in Buckingham Palace garden. And this was for the Queen's green canopy, and it was following on from that reception. Oh, I forgot to say, yes, that reception, of course, was hosting 200 world leaders, decision makers and NGOs ahead of the COP27 summit in Egypt, which he won't be attending. And you can see him in these photographs again. He's in his palest puce and a poppy. And he might be looking really rather cheery because The Crown has been getting some quite poor reviews at its advanced screenings, which is a shame because I love The Crown as a work of fiction. I love it. I've enjoyed every series of it. But I had a feeling that because they are stretching the limits of imagination beyond what's comfortable, aren't they? I'm not looking forward to watching these series now, and I'm sure that I will to see what's going on, but it beggars belief too much, especially when you have John Major coming forward, and now Tony Blair coming forward as well. This is the thing, he's come forward as well to say what complete rubbish all the plot lines that they've come out with in this new series. They're all rubbish, he says. I did find this nice photograph, though, of the Queen with those two prime ministers. If you're not from the kingdom and don't know, John Major there was our Conservative Prime Minister after Margaret Thatcher, and Tony Blair was our Labour Prime Minister, very popular and led the country for a very long time. Well, he was popular then, in hindsight, not so much. But, two sides of the coin, both adoring our Queen. And there is something that I find very touching about the fact that they're coming forward in this really rather gallant fashion. That's another word that everybody mispronounces. I mean, I don't care what you do abroad, by the way, if you pronounce it gallant or gallant or however you want to do it. But in the kingdom here, just in case you're unsure, it's gallant. Gallantry. Standards. Very gallant, coming forward to protect Her Majesty's memory, I think, and to poo-poo these conversations, which is a shame. It is a shame. And people have been having a chuckle because John Major is being portrayed by Johnny Lee Miller, who's an attractive actor and in his time was rather a heartthrob, And people are saying, really? He's playing John Major? Because John Major always had this reputation as being really rather dull and grey and lifeless. And there was a huge commotion when it was uncovered that he'd had an affair with Edwina Currie behind poor Norma Major's back. And people didn't know that he had it in him. Well, anyone that's met John Major, including the Queen, will tell you that he is a seductive man. Ladies love him, and some of the gentlemen. Foibles aside, flaws aside, he's known as a very seductive, flirtatious, charismatic man, and the Queen found him very charming as well. And also a handsome one. And, you know, some of these characters in public life come over a completely different way, in reality, to how they are perceived throughout the media. John Major's an example, Gordon Brown is an example. So I'm told. Who's the other one? Well, it puts me in mind of, as we were talking about the other day, of Camilla in the same sort of way, whose charms aren't instantly recognisable through the lens, but in the living, breathing world, they're apparent. And it's been confirmed that even after they added a few disclaimers recently to their social media, apparently they won't, you know, they're sticking by their guns. They're not going to add just a little flash of a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode of The Crown. Which is a shame. But we can find some cheer in the fact that Princess Catherine, at Kensington Palace rather, have announced that she will be following up last year's carol concert. Remember when she took to the pianoforte and did a little number, gave us a rendition, a tinkling on the ivories, which was so lovely. Well, she'll be back. She'll be back this year. It's going to be broadcast on ITV on Christmas Eve, this carol service at Westminster Abbey, paying tribute to the late Queen. And it was announced with this watercolour mystery here. And people aren't sure whether or not this was Catherine's hand doing the watercolour. I haven't been able to investigate and find out if it was, but people have been questioning. I see that with the red nail varnish there. Do you think that's her hand or not? Be fabulous if it was. I'm very jealous because I would love to be able to watercolour and come up with something like that fairly quickly. It's one of those things, you know, that one always thinks, oh, I'll get round to learning that, and never does. But I think it's a great skill to be able to conjure something up like that, an image like that. Very nice. I like that programme, Watercolour Challenge, with Hal and Gordon, actually. But how nice that seems to be turning into something of a tradition for the festive season. Ooh, and we've got the King's first Christmas message coming up. That's going to be a dramatic moment, isn't it, on Christmas Day? And it is the swan song of the festive stamp collection of the late Queen. And these have been running for over 15 years, over 50 years, since 1967, with the same silhouette. It was designed by a guy called Arthur, as I recall. Same silhouette on a batch of stamps every year. And we have 6 new ones this year, her final collection for this festive remembrance. This set of 6 Art Deco style stamps focuses on key moments of the Nativity, designed by Katie Ponder, and it features new barcodes. I think after this year, all stamps have to be sold with barcodes. It's so inelegant, isn't it? So inelegant, it's such a shame. I think they're optional though, isn't it? You can detach them, and they're going to be used for various technological advances. In future, you'll be able to scan the post, and a birthday greeting will pop up, or a video, or I don't know, all this technology isn't really for me. But hey, you can't stop progress, Muriel. So it is what it is. And just to update you on the gossip from the coronation, the word on the street is that it is going to be glorious, but not ostentatious. So hopefully, rather like the Queen's funeral, they did such a good job keeping what we love and trimming off some of the fat from it. I think they did a good job with that. So hopefully the coronation as well won't be so pared down as to not be, as they say, glorious, because we want that glory there, don't we? Land of hope and glory, send us victorious, happy and glorious. Must be. But yes, any sort of signs of ostentation they want to draw back on. Fair enough. But a new bank holiday has been announced by the King's Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. So that will cheer a few people up, although I don't really notice bank holidays nowadays because nobody really pays attention to the 5-day working week anymore. Everybody's flexible. Everyone does what they will when they want, working from home. But there will be a new bank holiday. It's been designated for Monday the 8th of May, which is 2 days after the coronation and a week after the usual May Day bank holiday. So an extra day there. There were concerns about this and the effect that it would have on the economy, but they've been brushed aside. The king's more important. So, tough titty. And this is a decision by Downing Street, not by the palace. And Thriller Camilla held her first audience as Queen Consort. She met with Children's Laureate Joseph Coelho at Buckingham Palace. Nice wallpaper, isn't it? Love the wallpaper. I really quite like that dated armchair there. She wore a poppy and the Queen Mother's oval rock crystal and diamond Art Deco brooch. As you'll know, she is a keen promoter of literature and children's literature. She works tirelessly. She holds 6 patronages related to literature: the National Literary Trust, the Book Trust. She presents the Booker Prize. She walks the walk and talks the talk, as do all of our major royals. Wonderful. Before we finish, I mentioned my jumper, didn't I? You won't be able to see it in all its glory, but my fabulous Christmas jumper. The original price of this was not a price that I would ever pay myself for a jumper, so please don't think that I'm in any way reckless or trying to brag. I mean, I'm boasting about my good find, but not financially boasting. The original price of this was 1,200 quid. Can you believe it? 1,200 quid apparently, somewhere around that. But I found it. And this is you guys know that I love a bargain. I'm always sniffing around, I'm make and mend mentality type affair, But this I found at about, the discount, I guess. It was around about £200. I got it for, so a discount of £1,000, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's exquisite. So no, I'd never pay that kind of silly price for a jumper, 1,200. And but as my Christmas treat to myself, my Christmas jumper, I thought that was a very good reduction, too good to pass up. So a bit of coziness there. Good luck finding your Christmas jumpers. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the Sunday chinwag and a bit of a gossip. Nice to catch up with you. Thank you for your company. My tip jar is in the description box below. And stay fruity and on royal duty. Mwah!